Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We are seeing so much news coming out revolving around the markets, with all of the turmoil coming out from Trump's tariffs. One company which could be seeing a major impact is Apple, with Apple potentially facing a complete disaster, as an analyst calls it tech's biggest trade war loser. Wedbush analyst Dan Ives warned that Apple faces particular peril from Trump's growing trade war. Let's have a read and let me bring this story to you. So Apple could be in for an even rougher ride than its big tech rivals. And this is coming from the Wedbush securities analyst Dan Ives, who warned in a note over the weekend that Apple in particular faces peril from President Trump's growing trade war. What could be the reason for this, and what is the major issue? Well, the tariff economic Armageddon unleashed by Trump is a complete disaster for Apple, given its massive China production exposure. I've said, in our view, no US tech company is more negatively impacted by these tariffs than Apple, with 90% of iPhone productions coming from China. So Wedbush cut its target on Apple from $325 per share to $250. Apple stock was down 3% in the mid-morning on the Monday that this was published to $182 per share as markets continued to bleed in the aftermath of Trump's sweeping tariffs. Almost every American trading partner was affected, and Apple stock was down to about 25% reductions this year. So Apple has already announced $500 billion investment in the US, along with Trump in February. I've noted the reality is it would take 3 years and $30 billion in their estimation to move even 10% of its supply chain from Asia to the US, with major disruption also in the process. For US consumers, the reality of a $1,000 iPhone being one of the best made consumer products on the planet would disappear. He added, "It speaks to our point that if consumers want a $3,500 iPhone, we should make them in New Jersey or Texas or another state. The concept of making iPhones in the US is a non-starter in their view. At $1,000, the price point would move up dramatically, so much it would be hard to comprehend, and the near-term margin impact on Apple's gross margins during the tariff war could be mind-boggling." This is not the only person that we've seen saying stuff like this. I mean, it kind of sounds like common sense when you think it through, right? The cost of making this sort of stuff in China and some of the other markets where they are produced, it just could not be replicated in the US. It just does not seem to be realistic. And if the tariffs do continue and go into effect in their current form, there will be a lot of companies that do end up losing out. Now at this point, a lot of people could be wondering, well, maybe Apple won't be too harshly affected. You know, we're seeing Trump exempting smartphones and computers from the new tariffs, but do bear in mind, this is Trump that we're talking about, and the Trump administration. So inevitably, what we're seeing is Trump officials saying that the tariff exemptions on tech are going to be temporary. So the concept of this being a major fix, the concept of this being a market not particularly affected, seems to be not very likely, to be honest. In the long term, it seems likely that if this whole practice of tariffs in China is something that we are looking to, Apple and other tech companies are going to be majorly impacted. Now do bear in mind, just to focus on the main concern for Apple, the vast majority, 90% of iPhones are produced and assembled in China. To move this over to the US, say, or other nations would be not only hard, disruptive, but also immensely costly. How many of you guys would go out and buy an iPhone for $3,500? Probably not that many. Probably not that many people can even afford that. It's bad enough at $1,000. But this could be the reality if we see these tech tariffs come into play. So let me know your thoughts on this in the comments, guys. Thank you for watching that video. If you enjoyed it, do give it a like and subscribe, and I hope I'll see you again soon. Goodbye.